Sigmar Berg, thank you for joining me on In The Naad today. I'm so happy to have you here.
Taylor, thank you for having me on your beautiful show. Is the best name for when it comes to sound and vibration.
Naad, it's so good, isn't it? I'm
Yes.
so glad you appreciated it. Most people don't know.
Yeah, I need to know.
Well, you do. You are the founder of the Love Tuner, which is this incredible device, which we'll get a little bit into later, and the writer of this wonderful book, which I finished last night. So thank you for that. One Journey, the Love Tuner book. And I was thinking before we begin, we might tune in.
That's what's good.
What do you think?
Yeah, let's
You,
do one long tune for the listeners.
Okay, perfect.
Right there.
It's so good. It's like breath work. It leaves you feeling high.
Yeah, it does.
And especially when you do it with someone else, I can't imagine what doing it in a group might be like.
I mean, it amplifies. So what we basically have done right now is we connected in a sound carpet of 528 hertz. And especially when you tune together, the frequencies still overlap. And what you heard a little bit in the background, like this whoop, 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 that's actually binary beats. And that means it's like a massage for your brain.
You said binary beats?
Binary beats, yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah. So is that sort of, you said it's like, I'm sorry, can you repeat?
It's kind of an overlapping of frequencies, like we both have been with the same frequency, but still, they overlap kind of, and they make this sound, and this is called binary beats. And this is why when you tune in a group, it's not only the sound carpet you connect on, the 528, what makes our connection from heart to heart possible, but you also create these binary beats in a group, and that's a beautiful feeling.
That is. I mean, what's incredible is we're almost like these receivers.
Yeah.
And then we play this frequency, and we all adjust to the same vibration. Yeah. And that doesn't happen in life very frequently.
No, it doesn't, because the biggest thing what divides us is the separation, the separation that comes from our intellect. And, you might look at me and you think something about my head and whatnot. This is like projections that we have, you know. But if you meet somebody on a heart level, what the 528 hertz and the Loft tuner does for you, you have a different perspective, because our hearts are totally curious. We want to connect. Humans want to connect. And the intellect separates us. So when we find a tool or whatever, like a mindfulness practice, that makes you really create this heart coherence, where you go into your heart, from your head into your heart, you have different communications and you have different, experiences, and you vibrate higher, because the beauty is in our life is that when we understand what our hearts are doing and we follow those, then there's no separation. So
exactly.
This is what creates unity and togetherness.
Right, if you're operating from a heart-centric place.
Exactly.
And the one thing that does come between the heart and other people is the mind.
Absolutely.
And so the cohesion of the heart and mind is essential. It's essential for everything. It's essential for manifestation. It's essential for true love, for true happiness. So what brought you on this journey? I mean, most journeys, the impetus is pain, maybe? A little pain, something going wrong? Or were you one of the lucky ones that got to avoid that?
No, it's interesting, because this is what I always got to ask is, like, what made you, whatever, follow this journey? And I have to say there was not one drastic event in my life.
Multiple drastic events.
But the thing is, I think overall in life, you need to experience also bad stuff to even understand it. And for a long time, I was thinking maybe I can avoid everything because I was kind of lucky. And then you look back in life and you see some stuff, and I said, I could have not done this, or this should have not happened. But everything has a purpose in life, because if you don't feel it, you don't understand it. And for me, there was nothing drastic, but I was searching for a long time, and I started meditating when I moved from Europe to Malibu, like nearly 20 years ago now. And I was like very into it. I like to meditate. It was great. I had a stressful life, and it helped me to literally, stop my thought process. So because we are filing like 75,000 thoughts a day. So when I learned the meditation, this was something that calmed me down. And then I did my first guided meditation, and with 528 hertz. And this was the absolute game changer for me. And out of this experience, the whole movement of Love Tuna actually came. And this was before I even really knew what I'm touching here, because my knowledge was not into frequency. I was a designer. I did a lot of different stuff. But the knowledge of frequency I learned myself, and through all the experiences we had. I mean, I tuned with thousands of people in the last 10 years. We tuned with huge groups, and we saw the power of this tool long before we even did like scientific testing, and where like top leaders in the mindfulness industry told us how beautiful this tool is and how powerful it is. So we had a real empiric experience. We went into schools, we went into, we worked a lot with veterans. So everywhere there's trauma, and we figured out that the combination of breath work with the sound can really change.
There's no question. Frequency is the paradigm of the future in terms of healing, health and wellness. Yeah. There's no question. Yeah. And I think people who don't believe that are far behind what's really happening now. I mean, what people don't realize is that even an MRI is frequency.
Absolutely.
Everything is like, right? Everything is energy. Now, this is according to Tesla and Einstein. Everything is energy, and all energy resonates at a frequency. Yeah. So even emotions, even anger, even love. Yeah. So when you work with the iTuner in large groups, like you said, you were working with schools, which I think is extraordinary. Good for you. Do you find that the healing, is it significantly stronger the more people that are doing it? Like, do you find that the vibration, the multitude of people enhances the power of the tuner?
I mean, it does not enhance the power of the tuner, but everything that we could do collectively, like in a group, it just like amplifies,
It does.
And at the very beginning, when we started with Love Tuna, I had a meeting with one of the tribal leaders from the Squamish leaders in Canada, and they told me back then a certain number of people that need to have a Love Tuna till you see the first shift in the world. And I forgot the number. It was like around 80,000. And I don't know why the guy came up with it, but we really feel this. The more people who tune in into the collective, and if they do it by themselves somewhere, but around the world right now, we are sitting here, there are thousands and 10,000s of people tuning, and they amplify. But if you do it in a group, you just feel it. It's just like overwhelming. Like we all connect to the same source, but in a group, it got so multiplied by this heart connection. And we have seen this in seminars in Europe where we literally had people tuned towards each other and then really wait and say very consciously, I love you and I bless you. But not from what we think about, okay, this person is looking good. It's like literally feeling
I know. It's a heart-centered, psychedelic vibe.
Yeah, exactly.
Universal oneness, universal love.
Yeah. And then we saw this after the biggest seminar that we had was like 1,500 people. And there have been a lot of people that came by themselves. So it was not a big group of friends. And we really created these heart connections of people that have been not necessarily spiritual, where you would say, okay, they have done this, they know what they're talking about, but just like looking into people's eyes and see how it shifts and what it does. And when you open your heart, you have those beautiful experiences. And the problem that we have is we want to explain everything out of our mind. Yeah. This is why we trust medication. We read what it does and we believe it. And we don't even look at it, that it has no vibration for us. And this is why when people go to their heart center and then they have this feeling the first time, and a lot of people start crying. It's not even like they're sad.
Oh, exactly.
Because it's such a relief, and there's nothing better you can do than connect your breath, what is anyway our best friend, because when we come into this world, this is when we take our first inhale, and when we leave, we exhale, and in between, the breath is our best friend. So when you connect the breath with a frequency, and the frequency gives an audible feedback on your breathing, so you're already way ahead. So what
you're hypnotizing yourself.
Yeah, that's what you basically do. So
yeah.
you disconnect your nervous system. You go from the parasympathetic nervous system, the sympathetic nervous system, get out of the fight and flight mode, and then the frequency kicks in, and the frequency is literally really magic. And it's a cosmic frequency, and there's a reason it's called the love or the DNA repair frequency, because this is what we are as humans. You know, like we are like 75% water. Our blood is 91% water. So yes, what do we react to? We react to frequency.
We react to frequency, react to shift. Exactly. I mean, this is why the moon has such an impact on us, right? We're like the ocean. We are the ocean. We're a drop in the ocean. Have you thought about doing other frequencies? Working along the other chakra?
I just got actually a patent approved like about nearly half a year ago, and we are launching within the next months now a multi-frequency tuner what covers all the chakras in your body. And it's more for therapists, or if you know it by yourself, you can do it. So it's like the 6 main tones on the solfeggio frequency. And then you just tune the entire chakra system.
And will it be one sound? Will it be like multi-layered sounds?
No, you have like similar to this tuner, but you have 6 different tuners, and you wear it around the neck, and you can go through whatever. If you're a healer, you can do it to someone or with someone, or you can do it by yourself.
That's really incredible. And what's really interesting about this is you said these people weren't necessarily spiritual, but you don't really have to be.
No.
You touch it the first time. It's like, again, it's like doing a psychedelic. Everything opens and you realize, wow, I've just touched something big. And you never want to go back. You just don't want to go back. And when you have it hanging around your neck, it's so easily accessible.
And I mean, and I think you felt it too. As soon as you have it you wear it, you really feel kind of naked when you leave, because it's next to your heart, and you go, where's my love tuner?
I haven't taken mine off except when I shower, and I tune in as soon as I wake up.
And then this is like what I hear for so many people, and then it really does a lot. I mean, we're having a study coming out in October from a university in Germany, and this is a professor that tested the love tuner now for over 4 years, and now we have the final results. And all the results that I'm not going to talk about right now, everything that we know about the love tuner is there. So we have an amazing document, what they did, and they did it with 1,200 students over all those years. But the crazy thing is, he called me and he said, we need to do this in a podcast as soon as the study is out. We figured out that it does a magic. So every student at one point in these 4 years talked about that magic is happening.
Right. I'm sure it helps with manifestation. Because if you're aligned, right, if the mind, the heart, and intention are aligned, you can create everything.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
It almost takes you into 5D.
Yeah. This is where we're all heading it.
Yeah, we're all heading. And I think it's happening rapidly, don't you?
You know, it's like really happening, because when we started, and as I said, it's now 10 years ago, we have been tuning in Malibu at the beach, and we are sending some of my friends there, and we are tuning, and people are walking by, and one person said, they think we are completely nuts. And I said, I don't think so, because in the late 60s or 70s, I don't know exactly when it started, when people have been running, you went like, okay, and then jogging, everybody understands. And the same thing is like now with the spiritual movement. And Love Tune is just a little bit more than a product. It's really a love and peace mission to bring people together.
Oh, it's not. It's way more than a product. I don't even see it as a product. I see it as a means to an end.
Yeah, absolutely.
Self-discovery, too, on many levels.
Yeah. And, the beauty of it is you don't have to read any books about it. You don't need to be spiritual. You just need to do it, because your body reacts to it anyway. And everything what we can do on a cellular level, that really sticks, You can read the best books from the best authors. That's still in your mind. But as soon as you do something, and especially with the Love Tuner, it's just more than an app or listening to it. What I experienced, how I experienced the frequency, I was listening to it. But when you use the Love Tuner, you become your own vessel. You become your own instrument. And that's the beauty of it.
Well, what I love is it's true because it's it feels organic.
Yeah.
And you're really working with yourself and your breath, which is, your connection to God.
Yeah.
If you believe in God, breath is your connection to source. Now, I would be very remiss not to talk about this book. In addition, because it's called The Love Tuner, I want to get into your thoughts on sex. Let's talk about sex because it's very similar to how the Kundalinis think about sex.
Absolutely.
And as you know, I'm a Kundalini practitioner. But you talk about, this, when people come together sexually, how the man, we believe that the man becomes a part of your auric field. For the woman. Yeah. It's a little bit more invasive for the woman if you're with somebody who you're attaching yourself to their either negative vibration or their negative frequency. But it seems that you have a similar thought system.
Yeah, I mean, I believe, I know what you're referring to in the book, and I call it, sacred energy exchange.
But it is.
And that's just what it is. And I think, especially when we are younger, or some people never change, where you just use it as like an outlet of your whatever it is, your low self-esteem,
or just angst or energy,
or you're just bored, whatever it is.
Whatever it is.
So it's not that this is something bad and people need to make these experiences, but I think at one point, when you get aware of frequency and vibration, then you also harness what you call the Kundalini, and I call it your energy field. And you're just more careful about it, because the problem is when you interact in a sexual way and you exchange energies, and when this is not in alignment, then you don't feel well. You're giving a lot away from you and you're taking a lot of in. So this is why a lot of people, and this is now our dating society, is a little bit messed up, because it's just getting too much, like people are getting overloaded, everybody's confused. And if it would work out with the dating apps, everybody would be married, you know what I mean? If this is really what you're going for, and if this is how you find your partner. And I mean, it's a great tool, this is just how technology is right now, but you still need to be aware of, only because you have the chances to do it, maybe just be a little bit more careful about your energy system. What are you doing when it comes to sex?
Well, yeah, I think that when a woman, makes love to a man who's, casually, they become a part of your auric field.
Absolutely. And everyone does, it's not only one partner. Every partner leaves a trace.
Right. But hopefully if you're in tune or if you're in sync, it doesn't leave holes or it doesn't darken or shrink your auric field, right? It expands.
Exactly.
Like ideally, love expands your aura, and love is in of itself a meditation.
Yeah.
So, I mean, imagine I'm sure you have, but I haven't done this in bed with a partner yet, but I mean, I certainly intend to. That's the plan.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, it was interesting when we started with Loft, the first group that really came close to us and they used it in their workshop was a tantric.
Yes,
I don't know if I told you this.
No, you didn't.
And they bought Love Tuners and they said, oh, this is so great in our seminars, because it's very similar than you oming in and tuning. It's just way easier and way more instant. And they said, we need to collaborate. And I said, listen, I'm trying to get into elementary schools. If I start with this kind of stuff, I basically killed my own mission before it even started, because a lot of people are brute, even if sex is the most beautiful thing, if it's done right with the right partner. And yes, I mean, what you just said is, if you really vibe into it and you bring sex to what it should be, that the sacred energy exchange, then what we call the galactic orgasm, it really expands your entire field. And then it becomes something big, and so, but I think this knowledge is a little bit forgotten, and in our fast consuming time, it rarely happens to somebody,
It really does rarely happen that sex becomes that sort of explosive, multi-dimensional experience. And I don't know why. Maybe even though we're in that act, our minds are not there with us. Who knows?
Yeah.
But it is, because we're always seeking that.
Yeah.
Especially if you know what could potentially be.
Yeah, and it's just like, I mean, then it comes to your mindset too, like also how you want to approach life. Is this something what you're open to, or you just want to have a fast pleasure? So it's like, it's a take and give. It depends if somebody is really serious about something, if somebody is serious about, the love to another person. And it doesn't mean that you have to be whatever, an everlasting marriage or whatnot, because you can experience this with people that are like-minded, that vibrate in the same way, because then it becomes anyway something magical, and then you don't have to put like whatever marriage stamp on it.
People should be doing this before business meetings. They should be doing it before prayer, before meditation, just so that everyone gets aligned.
What do you mean? The tuning, or the sex?
I mean, I'm down for both, frankly. But I mean, in this particular case, I think the tuner. Especially before a business meeting. Like, you want to make sure that everyone's on the same level, right? Their thoughts. Because what happens is one's frequency isn't the same all the time. No. If you're in a great mood and someone almost rear ends you, you're like, God, you're broken out of that, and boom, then you go right down. So, I mean, it's not to say that one's frequency can always remain at 528 or above.
Yeah.
Sometimes we go into fight or flight, right? And we're operating from our lower chakras. Yeah. I mean, we're just human beings in this one incarnation. So it all happens. But I think with the tuner, it can help you realign.
Absolutely. And this is what you just mentioned earlier, for example, like business meetings. There's nothing better if you have a team meeting to tune before this, because everybody has expectations. You go in a meeting, you're stressed, you're late, whatever it is, or you have like some anxiety. Your boss is waiting for a report, and the boss itself maybe has anxiety too, whatever it is, and stressed out. So when you have a team together and you tune, it does not mean necessarily it does your job, but it gives you a completely different perspective. You tune into the sound carpet, and believe me, you will have a more creative and a better meeting if you would have not tuned.
Listen, we are on the cusp of the age of Aquarius. Yeah. I do think there is going to be a time in our lives, in our lifetimes, where it won't be weird to bring in a tuner and say before a meeting, shall we tune in? I just think it's going to be the wave of the future. Yeah. And we're just touching on it now. But it's moving rapidly. Like, my daughter tried this the other day, and she's like, oh, my God, Mom, can I have one? And I was actually going to order one online, but I knew I was seeing you, and I would just ask, because now you're my friend. But, yeah, something like this is just... it's a valuable tool. Yeah. And, Yogi Bhajan, who was my teacher, started the Kundalini, brought Kundalini to America, said, fools don't use tools. And so, simple, not really a sophisticated phrase, but it means a lot.
Yeah. But I say this to people all the time, like, you can look on the outside as much as you want. If you don't understand your own vibe first, how do you vibrate? What is in alignment with you? What is in harmony and what is in dissonance? Everything else becomes like obsolete, because you don't go nowhere. You become a dreamer. And this is like, Carl Jung said this in my favorite quotes. He said, if you look on the outside, you become a dreamer. If you go inside, you awaken. And this is really what the core thing is. And if we take the world around us out of the equation, and understand that the universe is anyway in us, in every cell in the body. We understand the complete universe. And this is beyond religion. This is like just the source. This is God. And when you know that you're part of the creation and you're a creator yourself, so the first thing you want to know is, how do I vibe? What is in vibration with me? And sometimes for people, it gets a little bit lonely at the beginning, because they go like, oh, this old friends don't work anymore for me, or only special people work for me, or maybe new people have to come in to share this, this experience. But this is important, otherwise you will be just like an assembled piece of your surroundings, and this has nothing to do with your core being.
Well, it's funny, in the book you say that you weren't just going to talk the talk, you were going to walk the walk, and in doing so, you let go of friends and people in your life that didn't serve you or were bringing you down. Did you actually do that?
I mean, it it happened naturally, because everything with the love tuner, it's not like that you tune one time and you jump up and go like, like
I'm fixed.
I'm fixed, I'm enlightened. No, it's a journey. But when you stay with this, when you keep on tuning, it gets better and better and better. You become more or less, your own guidance. You know what is right and what is wrong. And we all have intuition. The only thing is we don't trust it. And when we talk about channeling, what is the highest form of intuition, that means you have a clear channel, like you trust your heart, you trust God, and this is how you get your informations. And by tuning, you get more and more into intuition, and then you get certain vibes with people, and then naturally, you raise your frequency and stuff what is not on, and I don't want to say this in an arrogant way, but what is not on your vibe anymore, you don't vibe with it anymore. It's not in the same frequency. It's not the same vibration. And this is why people leave, or you leave them, whatever it is. And new people will come in, but you also will understand the best version of yourself, you will have the least friends. And I can tell this myself. I think many, many years ago, when I was the worst version of myself, I had lots of friends. And when I look now, it's the opposite. But the people that are around are high vibrating, very nice people, very important people to me, and I just love those people.
It's amazing that you say that, because you don't know my history. But before I moved to LA, I owned a nightclub in New York and I owned a restaurant in New York. And when I tell you, I was the most popular girl, and I was the absolute worst version of myself. And my circle now is tiny. It's really small and it's really profound. And I learned something from every person in my life. And even when I reconnect with my old friends from New York, there's love there because there's not, there's an understanding, but I could never live and thrive in those friendships where they were. Yeah. They're just, I've changed. And I'm sure that the high frequency scares people who aren't ready for it. I'm sure at first there's a little bit of a heart sweater, like, okay, wow, I don't know what I'm feeling. It feels a little uncomfortable. And I think you have to get into that and say to yourself, sit back and sink into it and say, okay, this is progress. I'm actually changing. And what's really interesting is it's impacting your DNA.
Yeah.
And your fascia. Like, this goes deep the same way trauma goes deep.
Yeah. I mean, this is the core thing. Like, all our trauma sits on a cellular level. The easy stuff, you can do an online therapist and call him, what is the problem? Or you go to a therapy. But if you really want to solve something, real trauma, if you go into spoken therapy, it will not help you.
No, because it's just carving out the same groove. Exactly. It's like a record, and it gets deeper. As a matter of fact, you do the opposite. Yeah. And I've always, I hate to say this, but I've always sort of had that same philosophy around AA. Like, I'm an alcoholic. Yeah. I have no control. I feel like we have control over everything in our lives.
Absolutely. And I mean, the spoken word is very powerful. Like, if this is total negative self-talk. And when we talk about frequency and vibration, and I mean, the main knowledge that we gathered for the Loft, was out of the book Emoto. I don't know if you know this.
Of course, so even the words impacted the cellular level of the water. Exactly. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that study?
I mean, he basically traveled around the world, and he was collecting water from around the world, looked at this under a microscope.
Yeah, this is the Japanese scientist.
Yeah. And then he spoke whatever prayers to water, played like speed metal music, played Mozart, and so on and so on. And he also tested the 528 hertz frequency on the water. And what happens, we have this on our homepage actually. When you put a drop of water under a microscope and you look at it, it has like a morph shape. And as soon as you start tuning, you see the crystals align, and within 30 seconds, you have a perfect hexagonal crystal shape, like from a mountain spring. So, and this brings us back
Turns into sacred geometry.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's declustered water. So now we are 75%, 80% water, the blood. And this is happening to us. And this is why when you tune, it's not only like an esoteric gimmick, It's
Not at all.
It's a physical, very powerful reaction, and this is why you have right away this relaxation, that this anxiety leaves you. You know, like you feel like, wow, this is really happening right now. And then our mind tries to grasp around it, but you shouldn't. You know, you should even like follow the experience and go like
Follow with your heart,
exactly,
not your head.
Exactly, follow with your heart. Yeah.
You had said, words are powerful. And I don't know if you know this, but in his study, he also put words on paper, like the word hate.
Yeah.
And what happens to the molecular composition of the water is it almost looks like it's rotting. It's really miraculous. And people hear this and they think it's woo-woo. And the truth is it's not. I mean, people say they want to follow the science. This is science. Those studies are unbelievable.
Yeah. And I mean, like when you talk, a lot of people ask it at the beginning, how did you test it? How do you know it's working? And then we started obviously testing to show, like in a black room studies, how you see the frequency distribute in a room, what it does to you. We have been measuring brain waves. We have been comparing traditional meditation. So we had a group of 20 people meditating, took their brain waves, and then we had 20 people using the Loft tuner, same testing, and we had the same results.
Listen,
equally.
Testing is important. It really is. However, the true testament of how if this thing is effective or not, is how you feel.
Absolutely.
It's like everything. Yeah. I mean, can you test your love for someone? Can you test no. Can you test meditation? I mean, there have been many tests on it, but the value in meditation is the way it makes you feel, not the test results.
Absolutely.
I mean, I don't know if you noticed, upstairs I've got mantras everywhere, and I normally have them in this room, but hard to have a mantra going while you have a podcast. And people will walk into my house and inevitably say, wow, it's really got a peaceful vibe. Yeah. And I believe that's because of my mantras, which are resonating at 528 or above or higher. But they're all suffragio
frequencies.
Yeah.
I mean, this stuff is really so important, and this is why when we talk about the golden age, the age of Aquarius, everything is happening right now. And it's a war of frequencies out there. So we are fighting the good war, if you want to call it. We want to bring back the healing stuff. But we have been exposed to a lot of bad frequencies for a long, long time and not giving any awareness to it. We take it for granted that we come home with a headache from the city.
Like the EMF.
Or the EMF or whatever it is, like the phone, the Wi-Fi, and so on and so on. So the thing is, we need to counterbalance the bad frequencies. And right now is the right time. People are waking up. They're not trusting Western medicine like blindly anymore. Everybody had bad experience, wrong medication, stuff goes wrong. And then they see like, oh, wow, these are alternatives to our classical medical system. And I would not say I do a lot of sport. I had a lot of sport injuries. So it's important to have a good surgeon. But at one point, you need to tune. You need to believe in frequency. And I cut many years ago, I cut a nerve in here, an ulnar nerve, and my hand was basically about to be, I would have been crippled. I could not write, so I'm an artist, I paint, and they told me you will never surf, you will not kite surf, you probably need to learn how to write with your left hand. And I was with a very good surgeon here in Cedar Sinai, and he said, by the time the nerve will be grown down all the way, your muscles will be gone, so there's no win for you. And I started tuning, and I created a binary beat on top of it, and I did it. Besides that, I tune every day anyway. I did 1.5 hours in the morning, 1.5 hours before bedtime with headphones, and my nerve regrew in 1.5 years, and it should have taken 10 years. So it's not perfect. I will not be like a Swiss watchmaker with this hand, but I'm not crippled and I can do whatever I want to do. So I know what frequency can do, and this was in my late 40s. So,
well, when you're aligning the chakras and you're tuning the inner frequency of your body, it's going to respond. But like you're talking about, we're in the 5D, right? Yeah. Where everything is possible. Yeah. It's the quantum existence, right? So if you believe that arm is going to heal, that arm is going to have a much better
chance to heal. Absolutely. And
it will heal,
And this is like, but this comes back to self-empowerment, and this is like what we in our society really need to learn again, to trust in ourselves. Because if you jump from one advisor to the next one, from one friend to the other one, from one book to the other one, at one point it's like the saying, too many chefs in the kitchen don't create a good meal. And so sometimes it's a little bit more painful to do it by yourself, but this is probably what people need, to go through this thing and then come out like in a purer form, in a higher vibrating form on the other side.
Well, our journey is by ourselves. Exactly. So that's the bottom line. If you're looking to do it with someone else, you got the wrong idea anyway. Yeah. Just not happening. Yeah. What I really love, and maybe you could tell us a little bit about this, is the program that you have with children, because that's where it starts. Yeah. That's where our future is.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a big believer that the next generation will change the world.
Me too.
And this is why we need to put so much effort into it to wake those kids up. Because first of all, they're anyway vibrating high already. Just their DNA is already developed.
Just born that way.
And so especially all the kids that are born after 2000. And on the other hand, but they're fighting also way more frequencies than we have been ever.
Right, they're dealing with the social media. All that stuff that really is trying to bring them down.
Yeah. And so our stuff with kids was actually, first of all, I'm a believer in this, but it was also a natural thing to do, because when I had the Loft tuner in my hand, I wanted, where do we go from now? Yeah, we can sell it, we can talk about it, we can start the foundation, what we did, but who gives us really a feedback? And we went into the first classroom and 40 kids sitting on the floor, and you're sitting there with your Loft tuner with this little whistle. What I don't like is a name, because it's so much more than a whistle. And then you have these kids around, they're 8 years old. How do you get their attention? And the teacher obviously told them, hey, let's sit down. And then we just started tuning. And the kids picked up the tuners and tuned. And within no time, we had full attention. The kids tuned like there was no tomorrow. And the reaction was so crazy, because those kids with 8 years, they're way more open than we are.
Of course, they haven't built the walls yet.
Exactly. And when you sometimes hear stories of parents where they said, oh, the little one is always saying there's somebody in his room, or they see something.
Someone's there.
Yeah, because they really see.
There's someone there.
And they really see energies, because they don't have all these layers that we have, especially until 8 years.
I think it's around 7 or 8 when they start, losing those special abilities.
Yeah. And when we tuned with the kids, it was just really powerful, because the kids totally they just got it. You don't have to say anything. And then suddenly they talked about it, and we talked about what do we want to focus on right now? What do we want to share? And so every kid shared after this, it's only 10 minutes. It's and this is the program what we're actually doing. And I'm still pushing as much as I can, because the kids love it. The educators, not so much. This is why we tuned up with another foundation, which is promoting Loft Tuner, and they have a program. It's called Educate the Educator, where actually the teachers get educated that these kind of mindfulness programs are so important, because within 1 year we eliminated bullying completely in every classroom that used the Loft Tuner. The grades went up, and kids had a better focus, and they developed the community sense.
Was this in America?
This was here in
so
California.
I want you to remind me, I have a woman that I want to introduce you to that I think you should also connect with. She does meditating in, I think I told you she did it in Flint, Michigan, and there was where all those kids were, they were, right, tarnished by the
water.
The water and the lead. And the results were spectacular. The difference is, to meditate, you need more time. This is actually a better first step.
Yeah.
And she was having resistance with the educators as well. Yeah. Just because they're old paradigm. They don't get it.
Yeah. But, this is just like what is happening now when we go into whatever the age of Aquarius or in the golden age. We are going away from a fear-based model to a love-based model. So, and the fear-based model is the model of ourself, so self-centered, and it can only work with fear, because as soon as it's about yourself, everything else is fear. But we are transitioning now into a love-based model.
Where fear can exist.
And the love-based model is based on service. And it doesn't mean that you get poorer or richer with it, but it's just a different perspective. And as soon as you go from the self into service for others, no matter what you do, it's love-based.
Right, and it brings in abundance. And abundance doesn't necessarily mean financial. It could be love. It could be accomplishment. It could be self, I mean, right? Abundance could be a multitude of things. But you're right. I think that the love-based model is going to be so effective when it's really in full swing, because hate can exist where there is love, the same way that dark can exist where there is life. You essentially eliminate it.
Yeah. And what we need to do is, like, because when we talk about the unconditional love, the universal feeling of love, what is the highest vibration out there where we all connect. First of all, we need to do something, and this is like, we need to be authentic. And this is our biggest challenge right now, because everybody talks about love, peace, and harmony, but that you can be really even vibrating in love. First of all, you need to be fully authentic, because when you're not authentic, you're not whole, and to be authentic means to achieve wholeness, and this is the first step you need to do before you even talk about spreading love or,
It is the first step, and I think it is among the hardest for people, because there is such a need to impress, and that's all that social media is, right? It lacks authenticity on every level. Yeah. In order to be authentic, one has to be brave. Yeah. And it's a lot. It's a big task, but I think it's my favorite word, because it's my favorite characteristic in someone. Yeah. And I can see it and feel it a mile away. Yeah. I can see when they're coming, and I'm like, okay, this is going to be a good conversation. Now I've got a real person in front of me. So yeah, authenticity is a magical quality, and it brings so much into your life. It's also one that people have a lot of difficulty with. Yeah. Because especially men. Yeah. Especially men. I think it's really hard for men to allow themselves. I do. Yeah. And I don't know, by no fault of their own. This is societal. Yeah, yeah. This is societal. It has to do with money and accomplishment and.
Yeah, but like it's with men and women, it's also like our paradigm got so shifted around, because at the end of the day, the man is the physical and the woman is the spiritual. And if this is a unit, then it's the best thing that can happen,
It's true. This whole toxic masculinity or all this stuff is frankly, it's bullshit.
It is. And it's one other layer to
We're talking about archetypes, ancient archetypes, and to mess around with them and to pretend that they carry negative charges or positive charges is absolutely ludicrous.
Yeah. I mean, it just creates more separation.
It does. And I think that's the objective.
That's really what the agenda is, actually, to build more and more walls instead of bringing it down. And when you take it from a spiritual point of view, when you know that we're all starseeds, that we're all connected, we're coming from the light, and everything, one is all and all is one, as above as below. When you understand this concept, then you go like, really? You're telling me now about masculinity and femininity? This is not what we should even discuss. I know there's a lot of people that will hate what I'm saying right now, but if we understand that we're all one, and we're all literally walking each other home, then you get a different perspective. This is the most important thing. You will still sit in traffic and swear at somebody, and you go like, oh, what not? And you will be upset. You will be angry, because this is our human traits. But if you understand the overall concept, things will shift, and you will see the more people will have this experience, the less aggression will be out there, the less separation will be out there. And then also the ones that are literally, like making the propaganda for this separation, nobody will listen to this anymore.
They become the outsiders.
They become the outsiders. And it's just like this, what I said, what we talked earlier, like you talked about being a nightclub owner and having restaurants, being everybody's darling. And now you're like on a different level. You vibrate differently.
Nobody's darling. And now I'm nobody's darling.
But it's the same thing in society, because what you have as a human experience, as a singular, you will also have it in the society. And this is like what I'm pushing for. The Love Tune is a love and peace mission. It's there to connect hearts, and it's full on inclusive. It's not exclusive, and
it's affordable.
And it's affordable. And when I started with the
And it's
Love Tune,
beautiful.
we talked about chakras obviously at the very beginning, and I said, take the word chakra out of our vocabulary. We all know it.
Tell me why.
Because 90% of the people, when they back then, and now it's changed a little bit, when they hear chakra, they go, "Oh, that's not for me." You know what I mean? The same thing is like, "Oh, meditation is not for me."
You're scaring me because my new business is based on chakra. But you're right.
Yeah.
People have to be educated that the chakra systems are real. They're not.
No, absolutely,
Right.
absolutely. But what I said, listen, I want to create a tool that. And we live here in LA. Everybody knows traffic on the 405, horrible. So I had this imagination in my head. I said, the yogis and the people that are spiritually already aware, they will understand this right away.
2 seconds.
But I go like, what is it with a guy that sits in traffic on the 405, is late, comes home to his house, and has all the stuff that we're dealing with, whatever, he's late on a payment, I don't know what's going on in his personal life. And then he is angry because sitting in traffic, swearing, whatnot.
Comes home and brings it into the house, and then the family's
exactly.
The family's absorbing that
So,
energetic field.
And where do you go from there? Then it's already too late. So, but if this person would stop 5 minutes before he enters the house and does a tuning cycle, and maybe the mom tunes with the kids or the kids tune in school, they're all on a different vibration, on a better vibration, because they tune all the negativity out.
It elevates their lives.
And this is how I understand this love and peace movement. It's not about being intellectual. It's not about being poor or rich. It's about understanding that we all vibrate. And if you're in a bad vibe, raise your vibration and connect on a higher frequency.
I mean, it's funny that you say that because that's a 60s. That's a 60s expression.
Yeah.
Hey man, what's your vibe like? Oh, he's low vibe, and now it's coming back.
Yeah.
So, do you look at yourself as being on a mission? Like, are you a missionary and you want to start tuning the world?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, I gave up my entire life for this, and it became really my purpose. And I have some very close friends that are also in the mission, and we know exactly what we're doing, where we want to see this, and we see this as a global love and peace mission.
So, are you a team? Is there a team behind you?
Yeah, I'm the founder, but we have
in the face, obviously.
Yeah, and
it's a pretty good face to have. What are your company?
No, but it's just like, we have so many people from different fields. We have like obviously classic therapists. We have people that are life coaches, like whatnot. But we also have like a world sailor, sails around the world, tunes, So I'm very open. We have athletes, everything. So, and those people spread the word wherever they can, and I believe when a person that is tuned in enters a room, and what you said earlier is like, it attracts people, Some people, maybe you bring a lot of light when you do this kind of exercise consistently. And some people, they are right away drawn to the light, but some of them are also like scared away because it's a lot of light that comes, And when you put a lot of light out there, you see also a lot of shadows. And this is just the natural process that is happening.
Are you faced with any resistance? Have you been?
My personal resistance against
just resistance to the mission?
Yes. I mean, I know that we have been it sounds crazy, but we had shadow banning and stuff like this.
Did you?
Yeah, because we talk pretty open about stuff like this. But it's I don't focus on this. I really believe in the good, and I believe in changing, for example, the musical scale. This is my biggest mission right now because our musical scale got changed from 444 hertz to 440, and this happened the first time already in the medieval with the church. So I don't know if you noticed.
I don't.
The Gregorian choirs, for example, is those chants.
Right.
They have been chanting on 528 hertz, and it started like 600 after Christ. They have been healing villages, cities, entire communities only by chanting. So the churches actually have been sound chambers. So this is what is going on back then. And in medieval, the church went out and went like, listen, if we have people in harmony, this is not a model where we can make money, So they switched to a fear-based model, and
They lowered the frequency?
they lowered the frequency the first time, yeah.
That's so interesting. Are you familiar with the artist named Major?
I heard about him, yeah.
So Major, I heard him talking about how they've also done that with industry products like synthesizers, electric guitars. They've lowered the frequency. So when he buys an instrument or he opens it up,
He needs to retune it.
he retunes it.
Yeah.
I say, what does that tell you? I mean,
The craziness is, so before the second
that's egregious.
Before the Second World War, Adolf Hitler changed the frequency to get people like really rattled up. And unfortunately, in the United States, the Rockefeller Foundation made it institutional. So they changed it. From this time on, there was only 440 as a note, and this was exactly 4 hertz lower. So when you do this, the C note disappeared. So the 520, the whole exercise was only about one note.
The C.
That the C disappears from 528.
Oh my God.
And John Lennon, for example, Imagine was composed in 528 hertz. But there was not that much awareness. I mean, people just
didn't even know that.
Just didn't know it, and he didn't, even if he was so popular, he didn't have this impact. But he knew what was going on. And this is what I'm trying now to tell a lot of young musicians, and especially also, the electronic music is so big, and for DJs it's super easy to change the frequency. So I'm educating them and say, listen, please use it and play music on this note, amp up your synthesizer, amp up your instrument from 440 to 444 hertz, because that creates real music, that creates healing music.
Right, and that's what a lot of these kids are going to these raves for. It's transformational.
Absolutely. And now can you imagine if you're in the correct key, then you create
it's so crazy that they've been doing that. So I have this philosophy. Tell me what you think. Like, I look at great musicians, and musicians let's talk about Jerry Garcia or Mick Jagger, guys that were always on their instrument constantly, even when they weren't performing. They were just always playing. I think about Bob Dylan with the harmonica, which that again it's a vibration. You feel that vibration. I feel like these guys age slower because when they're working with their instrument, they're actually in a meditative state.
Yeah.
And on a cellular level, it keeps their cellulars and their telomeres long.
Yeah.
So I feel like all the sound that we've been seeing around us for millennia, but we just don't realize the impact it's having unless you really take a close examination. Like I was talking to you the other day about how I feel like the pyramids were built with frequency technology.
Absolutely. I mean, I told you about this. I don't know if I told you. I mean, it's a little bit in the book as well.
It is, but please tell us, because it's absolutely fascinating.
I went there myself too, so I did the entire journey from the Naad, what is actually our Kundalini, and I went to different temples. I stayed overnight, meditated, tuned, and did a lot of stuff. And first of all, people know it's not allowed to do this. So
right, so you had special access.
It's like, you can go in there, but it's like, it's not wanted to do it. Let's call it this way. You can stay in there for whatever reason. You pay good money for it. But it's really powerful. And what there's now, I think it was on Joe Rogan's podcast when they talk about what is underneath the pyramids.
The new
findings.
The new findings are incredible.
But for example, we talk about this in our book already. And I'm writing a new book, and I work with people that have not seen it, how we know it now from technology, but they told me that it's there. And when I accessed this knowledge just through meditation, I saw it too. So it's really there. Like these things are alien-built sound chambers, and when you look at all the pyramids around the world, how do you think they have been connected with no roads? Obviously, when you look from space, then you know why.
Right.
And this is so. It's like, and I think that's the interesting thing about our time right now is that all this stuff is coming out. It was hidden for so long, and more stuff is coming out. And this is why this is the shift from the self into the love thing. And this is away from fear into love, because it will all be explained to people who we are, where we're coming from, and what our purpose really is, And I think this is, when we call it the golden age, this is where we're heading to. And
yeah, I feel the shift.
And on a 5D level, it happened already. The light won, and now it's only about like the manifestation, the 3D world. That's going to be a little bit rocky, but it's going to happen. And it's happening sooner than later.
Well, you're fascinating, and these stories are. I mean, I could sit and talk to you for hours. So I know how to reach you, but for those who don't, how would they find you? Is there a website? How do they connect with you? I don't know if you're still teaching.
Yeah, like the best thing is lovetuner.com. So we have a lot of stuff on there. I mean, obviously you can buy the Love Tuner there, but we have a science page also for the people who want to know a little bit more about frequency, breath work. We also put our courses out there. If we have them, people can book one-on-one tuning. I do this with people. I do it literally for fun, because I give people the opportunity, because we do this like this kind of Q&A on and off, and then you got more and more and more. And now I do it like on a weekly basis that I
That's
do
fantastic.
one-on-one tunings. Yeah,
That's fantastic.
So everything is to be found on lovetuner.com.
Well, that's wonderful. Shall we tune out?
Yeah,
together
let's do this.
one more time.
Thank you so much, Taylor, for having me.
This has been fantastic. I'm so happy you came in. I'm so happy I met you.
Thank you.
Thank
I love
you.
it. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, my dear. Satnam.